Alright, so we'll start with the basic combos today. We'll start with the single, left, like jab, the cross, and then the jab, cross, hook, which is the one on each side, the 1, 2, and the 3. Remember, as usual, find your fighting stance, make sure you have a nice wide stance so you have a solid base under you, and you don't need to do any big rotations now because we're in a distance where we don't need that rotation. We don't need that extension all that through because the target is close enough for us to just work the hands and the rotations and let the feet follow through slightly, but no overextensions, no overdoing, right? Because that's going to stop the rotations of the, or that's going to stop the flow of the combos. So work on the singles. Remember rotation, push the hand through, lean in on your front leg. So you slightly have a hip rotation and lean in, so you transfer your weight into your front leg. Backhand is going to be the same thing. You have your rotation, push through. And on the backhand, or the cross, make sure that your right shoulder goes to your left hip, or back shoulder goes to your front hip. So you create a cross down, coming down this way. And then on the hook, after a rotation, make sure you create a rotation after your cross and come in. So you got the single, 1, you got the single, 1, you got the 1, 2, and make sure you overdo the rotations a little bit now in the beginning because it's also your warm-up. So you go 1, 2, and then you got your 1, 2, come back, 3, and come back here. All right? So you got your 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and come back. So let's just work with that. And partners, you just hold up your hands and gloves and make sure you coach correctly. All right? So you meet up a little bit, you go 1, 2. You also do the same thing basically. You go 1, 2, you go 1, 2, 3, or you do 1, 1, and you give your partner what you need. Right, so the next thing we're going to add now is a step with a hook, or so that you follow your opponent back after you did the second punch. So you go 1, 2, 3. All right, so the basic combo that we did was 1, 2, 3 with a hook. Now, because we're pushing him back with the straight punches, we're going to follow with a step for the hook. So it's going to be 1, 2, and you follow in 3 and come out here. Okay, so you can step in 2 ways. You can go 1, 2, 3 and come in. Okay, so not a lot of pivot in that step, but still you're stepping with your front legs. You can go 1, 2, step in and hook. Okay, so you step as you send the hook. So from here, that's going to be 1, 2, backhand is forward. I just step forward and chase with the hook. Okay, so that's all we do now. 1, 2, 3, and come back. Make sure that you get the rotation of the hip really through with this one, so it doesn't just become an arm movement as you send the third punch. Go 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that your second punch has to pivot your upper body, so that shoulder is forward. So as I push through with the leg and send the hand, I have to go 1 and come back. Okay, so a little bit of hip rotation, but not too much. As you work as the coach, when you're working the mitts and the gloves or whatever you were working with the partner, it can be open hands also. Make sure that you work them in a way so you can do it for a long time. If you're keeping the hands, if we keep the hands up like this all the time and just touch them a little bit, that means we're fatiguing shoulders. We're creating lactic acid, and that's going to burn out and it's going to wear out the shoulders. Another thing is the tactical part of it is that you as a coach will only be doing basically coaching. There's no natural movement in it for you. If we instead try to make sure that I keep my hands here. If I'm coaching, if I coach a 1-2, I'll be with my hands here. I'll try to keep my hands like a regular fighting stance up here, and I'll just go 1-2. And then I relax, I come back to my starting position where I can rest my hands. Okay, because if you do a 3, 4, 5 minute round with somebody and they're starting to punch really hard, you don't want to be out here for a long time. You want to be in a position where you can work with your hands, you can engage when you need to engage and relax in between. Okay, in the same way as you want to do as when we work on the pads. Right? When I'm striking, I don't want to be on all the time because that's going to build up lactic acid and that's going to start fatiguing my shoulders, so the punches is going to come down in power and everything is just going to start crumbling downwards. So make sure you keep your hands up here and then you just go 1-2 and then you relax. And this also becomes a natural movement for your partner to react to a little bit. We don't need to react really, but it's an opening hook. I go 1, 2, 3. I do the combo. I practice my upper body rotations, my hip rotations. I do everything in the same way as I was punching. At least I try to do that. There's going to be some differences, but that's the main idea, right? So when you work with your partner now, make sure you go 1, 2, 3. Even if it's the same movement, it's just a little bit smaller. So you just go 1, 2, 3, right? Or 1, 1, 1, 2, right? So, and if you need to step back as they're stepping forward, that means you have to practice your footwork at the same time. In that case, that would be something like this. If I'm here, I go 1, 2, my partner is going to step forward, so I step back. So I need to practice my footwork at the same time. So I don't get static here. I work 1, 2, 3, and then we come back again. I move around a little bit. I go 1, 2, 3. Okay, because it's not you who's the target. It's the hands that's the target. Okay, so the hands is the head, that the partner is supposed to hit, right? So don't think about your body distance to the partner. The target is your hands. All right, so let's just look at the stepping jab, because the hip rotation is going to be same in the hook. So for the stepping jab, I go 1. I turn my foot, so I land with the hip rotation as I land, and then I push back. So it's just going to go 1 and come back. 1, come back. So from here, as I send everything at the same time, I land and make sure that my hip has inward rotation and knees pointing in, toes are pointing in. So I get that hip rotation into the hip or into the jab here. Going from here, 1, 1. Right? So the main pressure on the foot in the stepping jab is on the outside of the foot here. So you load the leg all the way up into your glutes to build up pressure in the front leg that you can bounce off. Okay? So you build up elastic energy on the outside of the leg, from the ball of the foot all the way up through the leg into the glutes. When you hit, and then you come back. So the heel is slightly off the ground. The main pressure is on ball of the foot, on the turning here. Okay? And then you come back. All right. So when we do the hook with the step, we will do the same thing as in the stepping jab. It's going to be 1, you come in, 1. So you see, there's a hip rotation and I hit, but I don't change the angle really, okay? Stepping jab is here, hip rotation, hook, same thing. Come back, or in this case we can continue afterwards, but this is the finishing drill now, right? When we're doing this one, we do 1, 2, 3, and then we come back here. Okay? So let's try that again and really think about that hip rotation. So you go 1, 2, 3, and come back. All right, so we're gonna do a different way of engaging the opponent or chasing the person down. So you're gonna step on your second punch. So it's gonna be 1, 2, and then you send the hook. Okay? So jab, step in with the cross, and then you bring in the back foot together with the hook. Okay? So the back foot is going to follow in either with the hook or just before it as a natural movement after the first step. So you're going to go 1, 2, 3 and come back. 1, 2, 3. If you divide it and make sure that the foot and the hand is traveling at the same time, it's usually easier to learn it in the beginning, but then after a while you're naturally going to get into something that just happens by itself. So you send the jab into place, the person moves back, I follow in, and then I send the hook. Okay? So you saw in this one, my both feet stepped in with the second, before the hook came. Slowly, it's going to be 1, 2, 3. Or other option would be 1, 2, 3, and then come down. So you got two different options.